Hello, my name is Brooke Foster, and my presentation is entitled Gendered Expressions of Place Attachment, Mobility, and Justice at the Tar Creek Superfund Site. I'm in my third year here at OU, and I am majoring in Global Energy, Environment, and Resources with minors in Environmental Sustainability and Spanish. My research interests generally encompass topics related to mobility, gender, risk perception, and environmental justice. And I was inspired to conduct this research specifically because I grew up in Oklahoma, but I never knew about the reality of the Tar Creek Superfund site until I was in my first environmental sustainability class here at OU. After being introduced to the story of this place, I decided I wanted to learn more, and I began reading about Tar Creek in more detail during the summer of 2019. As evident in the title of my presentation, place attachment, environmental hazards, and mobility all play a key role in my research. Firstly, place attachment refers to the relationship between a person and a place. Secondly, an environmental hazard can be understood as a situation or event which threatens the health of people and the surrounding environment. And then finally, mobility is the ability one has to move without restriction. At environmentally hazardous sites, we know that place attachment and mobility influence environmental decision-making. And with this research, which is in progress, I explore place attachment, mobility, and environmental justice near the Tar Creek Superfund site. So both of the maps that you see here showcase the location of the Tar Creek Superfund site in northeastern Oklahoma. The map here on the left shows the town of Pitcher, where the Superfund site is located. The town sits in the corner of Oklahoma, way up there near the Kansas border. And the map here on the right side is a much more close-up image, which shows the Tar Creek Mining District, which is also referred to as the Tri-State Mining District, and which is what I call it throughout my research. And so Tar Creek itself is the site of United States EPA Superfund. It is located in northeastern Oklahoma, and it is known as the Tri-State Mining District, which I mentioned previously. And it includes the town of Pitcher, where lead and zinc operations supplied ammunition for both of the world wars. After demand for lead and zinc subsided, enormous piles of hazardous waste containing lead, zinc, and cadmium, known as chat, were left behind. And then over the years, lead poisoning caused neurological damage and unusual rates of kidney and cardiovascular disease. The mining carved out much of the subsurface, which eventually led to sinkholes. And a lot of people talked about the way that Pitcher stood on stilts. It was just hollowed out. And so ultimately, buyouts were offered to local residents. Despite knowledge of the risk, though, some families resisted leaving because they were attached to their home places. And then this photo that you see here shows the contaminated water near the Tar Creek Superfund, where hazardous waste such as lead contributes to the bright orange color of the water. And then here in this photo, we see how the discarded, this photo here is one of many discarded hazardous waste piles located in the area. The piles contain materials such as lead, zinc, and cadmium and are known as chat. And decades ago, the chat piles were such a normalized aspect of the town that residents even sold t-shirts that said "Ski the Pitcher Mountains" before they learned the risks associated with these environmental hazards. And so, as started in the summer of 2019, this literature review notes that environmental hazards such as those experienced near Tar Creek are highly contested, and many communities resisted relocation because populations express attachment and nostalgia in relation to leaving their home places. We also know that men and women often perceive risks of environmental hazards uniquely. While existing literature related to environmental injustice and place attachment focuses on hazards and nostalgia associated with specific geographical locations, this research specifically emphasizes gendered expressions and experiences of place attachment in the Tar Creek area. And so this photo shows several abandoned homes in Pitcher, Oklahoma. The houses have been painted with the words "Keep Out," warning people to stay away. And then, so as mentioned previously, past research has shown that women tend to be more risk averse in response to environmental hazards. In the Tar Creek region, many people, regardless of gender, chose to remain in the area they called home, even as risks became clear over time. By interviewing and surveying women and men about their decision-making processes and how their perceptions of risk changed over time, I hope to understand how each relate to the risks and then the place of Tar Creek differently. And then some of my specific research questions include, what is the history of hazards and hazard perception at Tar Creek? What are the interconnected roles of place attachment, mobility, and injustice? And then finally, what is the role of gender in how people understand and relate to environmental disasters? And so by drawing on my previously compiled literature review, this research will be grounded in individual interviews of former residents who have since relocated to escape the toxicity of the site. The interview protocol will include questions that seek to understand the key factors that led the individuals to remain living near the site, what led them to move, and gendered perceptions of the place that may have affected their understanding of risk. I seek to interview about 5 to 10 people, and participants will engage in an interview that'll take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Participants will be asked various questions about their personal relationship to the place, their risk perception, their experience with the buyout process, and their choice to eventually leave the area. And so here we see the future timeline and conclusion. Due to the COVID-19 crisis, the timeline has changed quite a bit. And so you'll see here for the remainder of April 2020, I will be, or have been and will be, continuing to create virtual interview methods and then reschedule interviews in response to COVID-19 since I can't exactly travel to the area at this time. And then the plan for May and June is to conduct, transcribe, and analyze the interviews, virtual and then in person if we're there yet, maybe later in June or something. And then in June and July, I plan to finalize the Tar Creek interview results, be working on writing those up. And then for the fall semester of 2020, I plan to begin a literature review for an international case study comparison where I will be looking at Tar Creek compared to, I haven't exactly chosen yet, but some kind of international case of environmental hazards. And then spring 2021, I'll complete my capstone project where I'll compare gendered experiences at Tar Creek with an international case study. And then, so in conclusion, by comparing the case of Tar Creek to an international site of environmental hazards, I plan to better understand the gendered experiences of environmental injustice in Oklahoma and around the world. So thank you very much for listening to this presentation, and I'm excited that I got to be a part of this virtual undergraduate research day. Thank you.